Hello, everybody. I'm here. Uh, I think today might be like the most prepared I've ever been for a Friday stream. At least regarding today's news. I mean, it's also a really low bar. It's a really low bar. Let's be honest. But here we are. Uh, how are you all doing? Uh, today, the past few days have been really bad, really terrible, actually. Uh, I'm just trying to just kind of fake being in an upbeat mood, which is probably going to fade pretty quickly. The news has just been terrible lately. I think part of what makes the news so terrible now is uh every morning I've been waking up and looking at some people that I've followed for the past year and a half, and they've been posting news from last year. And this time last year was also horrific. Like, I believe yesterday or today, I can't remember which, last year, there was a huge strike on Zaporizhia that like knocked down apartment buildings and killed a whole bunch of people. And then this year, at the same time, it's the same thing. It's like Russia just likes doing this in every October, apparently. October is knock down apartments and kill civilians month for Russia. And it's just sad. So yeah. Um I think it was yesterday. All the days are running together. I think it was yesterday or the day before. It was the anniversary of the death of a pretty famous Zaporizhian who I believe he died in Bakhmut. But he didn't die in combat in Bakhmut. I believe he died being rotated out of combat. So he had left combat and he had left Bakhmut and he was like driving to Chasiv Yar or whatever, and they got hit and killed. Um, so that was like a big blow to Zaporizhia. A lot of the people that I know who live in Zaporizhia were personal friends with him, and it was very sad. Uh, and then there was, I believe, the next day after that, there was a strike on Zaporizhia that knocked down the apartment buildings. Uh, and this year there was the strike on the memorial in in Kharkiv yesterday, and today a strike on an apartment building again. So it's not only that this October is terrible with just terrorist attacks day after day, but last October was the same. Apparently, this is just what Russia does. This is what they do. I never sent the YouTube notification. I don't even know how to send a YouTube notification. Is there like a button? I thought I just did that. Maybe YouTube didn't send it. Do you ever think of just blaming YouTube? I don't know what to do. I don't know, man. Uh, what if I click share? That doesn't do it. I don't know, dude. YouTube does what it does. You know? Yeah. It's been like infamous in YouTube that it doesn't send the notifications reliably. That's just the way. That's just the way YouTube is. It's programmed that way. It's what the robots wanted. I don't know. I don't know how you do it. Yeah, there's like the ring the bell button thing. I don't, dude. I am old school YouTube. I remember back in the day. when you subscribed to a channel on YouTube, and it made like, there's like, when you went to YouTube, there was like a panel on the bottom of the screen, like right here, and it had, in the order that the videos were uploaded, all of the videos from the channels you subscribed to, with like an arrow on each side, so you could go back and forward in time. And every time you watched a video in that list, the video would disappear. So then you could subscribe to like 10 channels, and when you logged in, it just gave you like those 10 videos every day, and you just watched them. And it was great. Why did they get rid of that? I loved it. It was fantastic. And you could like grab a video and move it to a different place in the list. I loved that. Because what I would do is I would take the videos and order them by how much I wanted to watch them. And then you click the first video, and it played through, and it was over. It went to the second video, and it just made a playlist of the videos you wanted to watch. And then they just got rid of that feature. Why? It was great. Yeah, they're old maps. Yeah, I do have old maps. I still have those old maps. We could look at them. We could look at the old maps. Just give me a second. Let's wait for Google to very very slowly load. They're very slow servers they got over there. Um, let's see if I can find the oldest map that I have here. Um, dude, do you do you remember Ukraine 2? Huh? Ukraine 2? So you're talking about Ukraine 4, but you never forgot, you forgot about Ukraine 2, huh? And we can go to the OG. The OG. There's a Ukraine. There's just didn't even have a number. Oh, wait a second. there was there was just Ukraine. There was just no number. There wasn't even a one after it. Uh, yeah, let's see if I can find that again. It just disappeared. Google's at it again. Google's doing their thing. They're just oh, I need to move my microphone. I keep bashing it with my forehead. Okay, there we go. One thing you might not know is I hang my microphone from the ceiling. I keep bashing my face against it. Oh, here's Ukraine. Uh, the OG map. This was the map I made way back when. See, there's even part of the Kharkiv offensive still there. Man, this was the original map. I only shared it with me. I even made these old artillery lines. Man, that was a long time ago. Because I was curious, what is the? Because I knew where Russia was shelling, and I was curious where the artillery pieces could be at maximum. So this radius, this curve is that it was where the artillery could be. This is back in the day. We're going back in time. Uh, so yeah, this is the old map, way back. That was back before I shared it with anybody. I think the first map I shared with other people was Ukraine 2. Anyways, that was way back. This is the current map. It's much better now. Here we go. Oh, cool. I just put my microphone where I won't bash my face into it. Okay, so I guess I could get to the news. I've been buying time. If you can't notice. There's no green eyeballs today. There were green eyeballs yesterday. Um, go to yesterday. There aren't that many green eyeballs because partially because it was cloudy, and partially because there was just not much to look at yesterday. So, uh, so yeah. Okay, so the green eyeballs. There's really not that much to look at, so I'll just go through it quickly. Right here, um, west of Verbova. There was some. There was this video. This isn't even a green eyeball, but this is a video of Ukraine just walking around. So that's interesting. Um, Moving on. Uh, Over here, I don't remember what this is. Oh yeah, this was a drone taking a video of a crater in the road. That's cool. And these are the actual green eyeballs. Okay, so um, in this part of Novomykhailivka, there's both heavy shelling and artillery strikes. If you remember last time I talked about these artillery strikes, they set off. Not these are airstrikes. They set off the minefields. Remember, these bombs blew up the mines. But you also see bombs here and there and there and there and there and there and there. There's tons of bombs. Okay, so it's getting bombed like crazy. Similarly, over here is artillery in this little field here. Also interesting is that this whole area south of Novomykhailivka is getting shelled. So there's shelling along this tree line, there's shelling along this tree line, and going on further south, there's shelling here, there's shelling here, there's shelling there, there's shelling here, shelling all along these tree lines. It is interesting because it seems that this area is heating up. There's been heavy airstrikes, heavy bombardment from the air. There's heavy shelling. There's drone attacks. This whole area is kind of activating, and maybe we'll see more action here in the near future. I just bashed my head against the mic again. I'm sorry. I don't know if you could hear that. I'm really sorry though. Okay, so then moving on north, there's more green eyeballs. These are east of Andriivka. This whole area from like here over and up and around like this. It's like a letter C or something. I don't know. This whole area is getting shelled, and you can see it here. There, see all these little white dots are artillery. These dark dots are also artillery, and you see it all along this tree line and also south of it, and over here you can see it here as well. This whole area is getting shelled, and also in this marshy area too. So those are basically the green eyeballs from yesterday. Beyond that, there wasn't much. Oh yeah, there was some MRL here, but that's not terribly interesting. It's just really obvious to see, so you may as well mark it. Anyways, I made a whole stream about finding green eyeballs yesterday, if you want to watch it. Beyond that, what do you mean no sound? Confused. Anyways, so there are rumors that I have not seen any substantiation for, other than this toss shelling is really maybe the only evidence to support it. But even that isn't terribly much. But there are rumors that Ukraine is moving towards Kompani, but beyond this shelling. So I guess maybe I should mark it like this is Ukrainian controlled. These two extra tree lines maybe. But beyond that, I don't see much evidence of them actually getting closer to Kompani. It's just kind of moving in the gray area. So that's a rumor. Well, and I have nothing more to say about that. Now further south, I don't see any actual changes around Novoprokopivka. I don't see any changes. And around Verbova, I see no changes. It seems that Russia is counterattacking out of Verbova and counterattacking out of Novoprokopivka, but neither. I don't see any progress in either case. There's some Ukrainian shelling right here, which I already noted before that that tree line is being shredded. I think in the last stream I talked about that, and that's about it for the Robotyne area. There's like no changes. Um, I don't think Ukraine is waiting for attackums. I mean, attackums will help, but I don't think you sit around waiting for them necessarily. What they'll help you take out Russian air assets, which is cool, and maybe some other things. I don't think Ukraine is waiting for anything. I don't think they're waiting. Uh, but anyways, moving on over. Around Pryutny, Russia is pushing up towards Rivnopil, this tree line. Some say that they've already captured this area up here, but I have not seen evidence of it. And beyond that, there is really no change. I don't see any change in this general area. Now getting on over to Vuhledar, Russia is attacking towards Vuhledar. I believe they're attacking here, although I might be wrong. They might be attacking here. But either way, it doesn't necessarily make a big difference. The exact attack vector, whether it's straight north or northeast, either way, they're moving towards Vuhledar, and I see no change. So now over here towards Novomykhailivka, the Russian, well, both Russia and Ukraine is saying that they're attacking towards Vodiana. Um, and I believe they mean that they're attacking west from Saladka, but I don't actually see evidence of that. I just hear them talking about it. And similarly, I already talked about. It seems that Novomykhailivka is activating south. Um, I would not be surprised if we start seeing Russian assaults south of Novomykhailivka. I don't think they would be successful. They have tried to capture Novomykhailivka many times, and they have not been able to make any progress. North of Novomykhailivka, again, Russia is assaulting in all of these same places across basically these two farm fields, and with no success. In fact, they've been losing ground, apparently. Um, Now in Mariinka, yesterday there was a Russian video showing a Russian assault in this area of Mariinka. Um, they've assaulted here a lot over the course of the past like 2 years with no changes. North of Mariinka, I don't actually have evidence that Russia's still attacking here, but both Russia and Ukraine is saying that they're still attacking in this same location. So maybe they are, but there's no actual evidence of it. There's no video or anything. Now, here near Krasnohorivka in this tree line, there's some Ukrainian shelling, which is mildly interesting. Near Pervomaiske, there's, well, first, Ukraine and Russia are both reporting that Russia is attacking Pervomaiske, but the only signs of fighting that I can see are in these tree lines right here, in that they're on fire. And also, both Russia and Ukraine said that Russia made no progress. So I don't know if that means that Russia's over here attacking this tree line, and that's why the tree line's on fire, or if Russia tried to attack out of the tree line and Ukraine beat them back and lit the tree line on fire. Either way, the tree line right there is on fire. Beyond that, I see no real changes. Bizarrely, Ukraine has been reporting that Russia is attacking towards this town that I don't know how to say the name of. Uh, Lastachkina? Is that how you pronounce it? Lastachkina? Anyways, anyway, it's really far away. It's kind of like a bizarre place to claim Russia is attacking. It makes me think that they're attacking this quarry. But there's no video and no signs of progress. So there's not much to talk about there. There's ongoing fighting south of Avdiivka with no changes. Yesterday, there were Ukrainian drone attacks to this area west of Krasnohorivka, the other Krasnohorivka. So I have marked this as Russian controlled. I have actually believed that this area has been Russian controlled for a long time, and I was waiting for video to prove it. And the video came out yesterday, so it was very easy to mark this as Russian control. I don't think that's actually in advance. It's just Russians are there. And I think they have been for a while. Now here is a spicy video. This is spicy because I don't know if this shows a change or what, but I guess I need to mark this as Russian controlled. I don't know if this is a change or if they were just always here, but Ukraine attacked this position with drones today. Okay. What is this position you're talking about? Okay. I'm just going to copy and paste these coordinates you're giving me. Boom. Oh, yeah, there. Yeah. Yeah, it might have just always been Russian controlled. I don't know. My pre 24th map is not terribly accurate. Yeah. So, anyways, moving on up. I think I talked about this last time, but Ukraine was sending drones here, so it's Russian controlled. Before I had it as a gray area. Near Klishchiivka. Okay, so I heard from some people here, and they told me that yesterday they had extremely intense fighting, basically all day long. Basically, they told me that it was from sunset 2 days ago until sunset yesterday, like 24 hours straight of being assaulted by the Russians, and that they told me that Ukraine had suffered, that their guys had suffered a significant number of casualties, but that the Russians, their assaults had been like wiped out. So he was basically saying that Ukraine took very bad casualties and Russia took like catastrophic casualties. So that's basically what he told me. Now, I don't fully 100% trust him, but he is usually somewhat accurate, at least. Like, he doesn't just like lie, although he can exaggerate. So, anyways, that's what he said. Yesterday was just really intense fighting around Andriivka and Klishchiivka. Now, north of Klishchiivka, there was a video came out today of Russia attacking this little defensive position on the southern side of the rail with a drone, and then they moved up and captured some soldiers. They captured some POWs right here, and then they like went back. So yeah, that happened near Klishchiivka. Now I don't know when that video was filmed. I can just say it just came out today. So yeah, that's kind of the news I have around Klishchiivka. That it is incredibly intense fighting, lots of assaults, and lots of casualties, but that nothing has changed. It seems that Russia is sending in more guys. They want to push Ukraine out of Klishchiivka, apparently. I don't think Russia is very happy that Ukraine has moved up this far. Now, in Bakhmut, I have no news. There's these like drone attacks in Bakhmut, but north of Bakhmut, I have very little news. Russia is attacking towards Khyberivka. I don't know if they're moving through this forest or down this forest line, but either way, they're attacking towards Khyberivka, whatever, however it's spelled. Anyways, they're attacking there with no successes. To this northern area north of Vuhledar, Yesterday, I I took away this little plot of control from Russia. Other than that, not too much change. Near Vesele, there was also this change yesterday. So you could see going back and forth. These are the changes yesterday. Um, so yeah, near Sprana, I have no news. Over here near Rivnopil, I have no news. Near Bilohorivka, I have no news. In the forest, I have no news. There's some a Russian tank blew up, but in the Zarechna area, I have no news. Makivka, Russia is attacking Makivka. They're trying to move down this tree line, and I think they're trying to capture this tree line, but I don't know of any significant progress. And yeah, now moving on up to Novosibirsk, I have no news. And beyond that, today Russia is attacking towards Ivanivka, and they're attacking towards Sinkivka. Yesterday, there was Russian shelling in this forest, which a lot of people erroneously had as under Russian control before. And a lot of people are claiming that Russia were pushed out, or they were repelled, or they lost the ground, or whatever. I don't believe Russia ever controlled this. I think it's been a gray area the whole time. And I don't, this shelling doesn't show that Ukraine controls it either. It's just a gray area, and it's always been a gray area. Neither side controls it. So that is more or less the significant frontline news today. Yesterday, there was well, actually, this was on the 4th, but the video came out yesterday. There was a tornado strike on what appeared to be a Ukrainian training ground, and it looked like there was a lot of casualties. Similarly, and I can't remember where this happened, but Ukraine did basically the same thing today. I think it's here. Yeah. Ukraine did basically the same thing with a Gimler strike on a Russian training center area. So the Russians were training there and got hit by Gimler. And then obviously today, Kharkiv got hit by missiles, by two Iskanders. One Iskander hit the road, and I don't think it did much damage hitting the road. I think it broke windows and stuff, but it also struck this apartment building, and it killed a few people. Along this kind of northern border, Russia has been really heavily shelling these three towns in particular, especially Vovchansk, where people, I spelled shelling wrong in this. I need to fix that. But anyways, but people are getting wounded, and like a 76-year-old man had severe burns. Two people were poisoned by carbon monoxide. So this is a significant kind of terror shelling targeting civilians. And yesterday, of course, there were the Iskander strike in Rosa, and that killed 52 people. It was very sad. Killed 52 people. There was another missile strike that people didn't talk about as much, but this also targeted civilians. And there were bomb strikes in Berislav that struck the hospital. Now, I want to say, because I found this incredibly offensive, there are people who are spreading this propaganda that all of the towns on the river are abandoned because Ukraine put out an evacuation order. That's simply not true. It's not true. They're not abandoned. Civilians do live there. Okay. Ukraine did tell people to leave, but that doesn't mean people left. And Ukraine doesn't force people to leave against their will. The order to leave is a suggestion. It's basically a strongly worded letter, okay? It's not like they come to your house and arrest you if you stay, okay? The people are still there. So attacking these towns is attacking civilians. It's that simple. They've been attacking Kherson regularly with this shelling, wounding and killing people on a regular basis. They've been bombing all of these towns. They've been bombing hospitals, bombing civilians trying to leave. They claim, and that's kind of the irony here, is that the other day they dropped a bomb on civilians. The civilians who survived got into cars and tried to drive away, and then they shelled the road that they were driving on so they couldn't leave. And one of the women suffered shrapnel wounds to her spine, okay? And then the people say, oh, these settlements are abandoned. It's ridiculous. So yeah, it's just, what else is there to say? Nikopol is getting heavily shelled. Marhanets is getting shelled. What more is there to say? There was a Shahed strike here in Kharkiv. It burnt down a building. I have no clue what the building was. There were Shahed strikes along the Danube River, destroying a whole bunch of goods and stuff for the international market. So the news on the front is that not much has changed. And the news in the rear is that Russia's shelling civilians. So that's the news. It's kind of depressing.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi. What's up, Erlend?
Yeah, it's been a rough week for Ukraine. There's not much positive to say, and just want to back you up on that because people tend to perceive that maybe we are dooming a little bit, but I don't think we are. I think we're trying to report the reality, and you are doing a very, very good job in doing that. So I want to thank you for continuing to doing this while it's still difficult to continue reporting the truth. I want to say that I do believe that Russia is. I have the feeling, at least, that Russia is trying to throw everything they can, concentrated in a period of time which is quite narrow compared to before.
It's exactly what they did last year. The same thing.
Yep. Similar pattern. They have some different methods that makes these things more dramatic and more effective in a way. Effective militarily, maybe, but more dramatic, it seems.
I don't think they're more dramatic. I think we just forgot what happened last year. This all everything they're doing now. It's even the same dates. It's like they have one playbook, and it's like on this day we shoot a hospital. On this day we shoot an apartment building. And like they're doing the same things on the same dates. Even this is just what they do. It's no different. I don't think there's any difference between this year and last year. I think we just forgot about last year. It's like there's so much happens. Like if you actually follow the war, so much happens every day that last year is forever ago. The only reason I even remember last year is because I follow accounts that are posting what happened this day last year, and I realize like they post like This day last year, Russia blew up an apartment building. And then like 2 hours later, the Russians blew up another apartment building. It's like, okay. It's the same thing. It's like literally the news every day just feels like the same as it was last year. They're using slightly different weapons now. Like last year, well, not even last year, the apartment building was blown up by S-300s. This year, it was Iskanders in some cases, but also S-300s in other cases. So,
Was it by any chance the one in Dnipro that collapsed?
what?
The apartment building.
The apartment building that I'm talking about last year was in Zaporizhia. They shot a lot of S-300s. Like, I think people forget how many S-300s they were shooting in the Zaporizhia. I had friends living in Zaporizhia through that, and every night they would message me like the S-300s are coming, like, and then they would say like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, it was like 12, 15 S-300s tonight, or like 24 S-300s tonight. Like they were shooting so many last year, and just bombing the city. And they would, in the morning, they would text me images of the city where there's just like a crater in the middle of the street, or like a big hole in the park, or like a hole in the side of an apartment building. And that was happening all last year. And now I remember it more clearly thinking about it, because I remember that happened in the postseason of Major League Baseball last year. And the postseason is October. So that all happened in October. I remember it. I remember on Twitter, because I used to work in baseball, right? So all of the people I was following were talking about baseball. And I was like, well, during the commercial break of your baseball game, Russia just shot 20 missiles into Zaporizhia. I remember it now. It's like all the memories are coming back, just thinking about it. So yeah, that all happened October last year, when they were just doing these terror campaigns, just bombing cities, and now they're doing it again.
And then they transitioned towards the electrical and heating grid. I remember. Yeah, it's worrying, but what I wanted to say is that I have this feeling that they've been saving up to do this, and that I don't think it's sustainable for them to continue. At least that's a hope.
Well, last year they stopped bombing Zaporizhia because Ukraine eventually found the S-300 and blew it up. And they posted images of, I don't remember if you remember this. I don't know if you remember this, but they posted images of like 3 S-300s on fire in the middle of the highway.
Yeah, I remember.
And they were like, well, these were the toys you were using to bomb our city, and we blew them up, so good luck. I have no clue how they blew them up, because they were well out of range of everything. They were like down here, in like the southern part of Berdyansk. I think it was like on this highway. I think it was like right here that they blew them up. And they, the only way I can imagine them blowing them up were special forces. I can't imagine a different way. You can't send a drone. There's no missile. They're a moving target on the highway. So they had to have been like a special forces ambush.
That was the speculation back then. And at the time, the Ukrainian special forces weren't publishing a lot of their activities. So I think we just assumed it was. I also remember speculation about it being some of the Ukrainian-made longer range systems that they had.
How would you?
Very small amounts of.
How?
But yeah.
Like so even if your missile had the range, how do you hit it? It's a
Yeah,
truck driving down a road. It wasn't like sitting in a parking lot or something. It was literally driving down the highway when it blew up.
yeah. One of them were, but or maybe two. One of them was also in a forest. I remember, but doesn't matter. They managed to take them out. What is the big difference? I think are these glide bombs, which are hitting the front lines as well. I think that's a change
Yeah.
from last year's situation.
Yeah, they dropped bombs last year, obviously, but there's a lot more now.
And what we need to remember is that even though we might isolate in our minds the effort of the defense of the Ukrainian military when they are defending their own soldiers by either um, having good intelligence, so they would know when they need to move away from certain areas, or with air defense assets, with electronic warfare assets. We tend to maybe separate that from the effort they have to always do to protect their own citizens. But they're correlated. And when Russia is massing attacks both against civilian and military targets at the same time, that's going to degrade the ability to coordinate all these efforts to avoid being hit, both for the military and the civilians. So I think that has a certain effect, at least. Probably the effect is more noticeable for the military.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. I don't really know what else to say. The news is minimal. At least changes wise, minimal news. It's all just more of the same. Uh,
Andrew, hi.
Hi.
I just added a video to the spreadsheet, basically about exactly what you just said about random shelling. Russians hitting a civilian car somewhere in Kherson. I don't know if you want to show it. It highlights the randomness.
I'm gonna look at it first to see how bad it is.
Well, you can pause after the shelling.
Because I don't want to get banned from the YouTubes. So these are just cars like waiting in line for something. I'm not sure what they're waiting in line for, but they're waiting in line.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the first one they don't really hit anything, but the second one, it's just a random car passing on the street suddenly gets hit by shell.
Yeah, I'm still watching it myself. By the way, I'm still afraid of putting this on the screen so far. Yeah, I'll just show this part. So they're all like waiting in line for something. Not really sure what. So yeah, I don't know how to narrate this, but so that's what happened, and then we're gonna stop there. So it's just they're randomly shelling. Just random. I don't. I think with their missiles and their bombs, I think they knowingly target. What they target and why they target it, I don't know. But they're doing it on purpose with their bombs and their missiles. With their artillery, I don't think there's even a purpose. I think they just shoot the artillery and the mortars, especially. The mortars, I think if just something moves, they shoot it. And it's that simple. I don't think they care. I don't think they're doing any analysis beyond that. It's just if it moves, it shoots it. That's it.
So from looking at all the bombs and artillery strikes and precision strikes with missiles, the good thing that we can take out of it is that they still haven't figured out the way to mass strikes and coordinate that with offensive maneuvers. It seems like total randomness that, exactly as you said, like when they see something moving, they shoot, or if they find someone a little bit behind the front lines that are training or just camping out, they shoot them with whatever they can reach the target. But it doesn't seem like there's a specific plan except from attrition. So maybe they learned how to use some of their surveillance assets better, but the coordination in attacks seems completely random.
I think there's one additional thing to that. If you look at their incentivization schemes, with getting rewards for certain assets if you manage to take them out, I think there's a lot of incentivization for Russians to make up things. And if you read the description on the video, which we've just seen, at least a bit of it, the description reads that it's targeting armored carriers for Ukrainian command. There's absolutely no way to really arrive at that logic, but that's how they will report it, and that's because of the incentivization scheme. And if you then have a system in the military where there's absolutely no risk, if you shoot the wrong person, there's absolutely no risk. You're going to report that you hit the right person, and that's about all. If you're lucky, you get your reward. But like anyone seeing through this and knowing that you just hit some sort of civilian or whatever, that there's not going to be any sort of suit against you.
The most obvious example of that were when they targeted that the humanitarian people with the mortars in Kherson. I can't. What was his name? I can't remember his name. But we saw the guy in the boat. We saw him.
Yeah, Dylan Burns was with them. Yeah.
Yeah. That is the most obvious time because they released the video of the mortaring with this whole description where every single word in the description was wrong. Because we know exactly who those people were. We knew everything about them, what they were doing, what they were wearing, what boat they were on, where they were going, where they were coming from. We know everything about them, and we can conclusively prove every single word that the Russians said about that incident was false. And for no reason. Why even construct the story? You could just say, there are these people on a boat, and we thought they were an enemy, so we shot mortars at them. But instead, they invented a story behind it.
Yeah, but that's the incentivization in the Russian army, if you ask me. That's literally what they incentivize you to do. If you have 10 shells for one day, you're going to shoot those 10 shells, even if you don't find real targets. You're going to shoot them, and you're going to report stuff. And probably you're going to report 10 hits on something valuable. That's just how it works with the Russian army, in my opinion.
Okay, so I have a question about incentive for you. That's a completely different topic that you also don't want to talk about, but I'm going to ask you anyway. what do you think the incentive is for Germany to give Taurus? Because yesterday you had a good point about this, and I just want you to tell the people your point.
Oh, what good point did I have? I was so enraged yesterday.
Yes, I want you to share your rage. It was about Scholz's government and their incentives. Do you remember what you said?
I mean, one of the things that I said, and I need to be careful, I guess, now as a German, even though we don't. Well, actually, I guess I don't need to be careful. Whatever. In the end, it's a democracy here, and there's freedom of speech. But one of the things that I said is that, in my opinion, anytime we have seen that there's put direct pressure on Scholz, he kind of behaves like this stubborn person. And one of the biggest issues I see is that we should not forget that a lot of or a large portion of Scholz's party had very strong connections, or still has very strong connections to Russia. The SPD party was having frequent travels to Russia to align with the Kremlin and so on, to have exchanges whatsoever. So there is a certain wing of that party which is more or less aligned with a lot of what Russia has been telling them for the last 20 years and so on. So while, if you put pressure on Scholz and saying that he's blocking stuff and he now reacts as a stubborn child, it is more likely that this more or less Russia-aligned wing gives Scholz what he needs, gives him the appreciation, basically, because they are going to tell him that he's doing everything right by, blocking it. I mean, this is one thing which is completely besides the point, that I'm personally convinced that he's not blocking it in that sense. But that's a whole different story. Is that the point that I was raising that you liked? If not, then
yes.
You need to cut this out.
Yes, that's what I was going for.
Okay.
Poor Jimmy in the chat is getting roasted, and Jimmy, everybody's getting a fight with Jimmy Jams, and Jimmy is sitting here like, what did I do? Oh, poor Jimmy. Anyways. But yeah, that was my point. Yeah.
I have a question for you, Geek, as well. So basically, you're saying that you think he's not blocking it, and I think maybe you're right. Is it because you think he's just saying that he's blocking it while the preparations for actually transferring it is happening, and when it's ready, he's gonna just silently approve it? Is that the
partially
you were thinking about?
partially?
So it's a PR thing. He's not actually doing anything to slow it down. Maybe he's just publicly making it look like he is.
The thing is, and I don't know how much I can really talk about that, since it was told to me in private, but I am aware, at least, that there's some sort of preparation for the integration ongoing. And I think that this wouldn't happen if there wasn't a clear prospect, of delivering it. There was also there were several media articles out there explaining exactly about that integration, more or less getting prepared. From my understanding, pressure on Scholz is the wrong move, because that, as I said earlier, is just going to make him turn stubborn and trying to appear strong to people, because everyone is trying to paint him as weak. So the natural reaction of him, in my personal opinion, would then be to try and appear strong and, not communicate much about that, other than, being the strong man. In my opinion, the right move right now is to put pressure on the people working on the integration, or those who should work on the integration. There had been, as far as I know, a mandate to MBDA to help Ukraine integrate the Taurus missiles, but from what I've heard, that is not enough. So there needs to be more effort and more manpower from the industrial side, basically, to support that integration. And once we know it works, and once Ukraine knows it works, then if Scholz is then actually not saying yes by then of course you need to reach the next level. But until then, and I always try to look at what do the Ukrainian officials say, and I don't think I've caught many of the Ukrainian officials complaining about Scholz regarding Taurus. So in my opinion, that's a good indication that preparation is going on and that there's active work in that direction. Because, in the past with Leopards and so on, you had the Ukrainian officials basically begging for it. And you don't have this currently with Taurus. And as I said, that's why I arrive at the point of thinking that there's a lot going on actively in the background. And the pressure on Scholz is wrong, because if he's going to say that we are delivering Taurus out of Germany, then there's still at least, 3-4 months of integration works needed until they're actually there. And all that does is just, give Russia time to prepare and figure out what's Taurus going to do. And I don't think we need that. And I personally, I raised that point yesterday on Twitter. I personally think that the fact that ATACMS were kind of known that they're imminent for delivery made Russia also reconsider their naval assets. A lot of them have been moved to Novomykhailivka. And I don't know if I would have preferred them in Sevastopol still, for the time when ATACMS is actually in Ukraine, because it would have been a pretty good target. And, it might be related. If sometimes the media tries to exploit an existing mood, or farm from that agitation which people have, sometimes you do the wrong thing. And in my opinion, the ATACMS, it would have been better if they were in Ukraine and the Russians found out that way. And then, there's the first public statement, oh yeah, by the way, we delivered them. That's, in my opinion, that's always the right way to go. But media pressure and the general public, they don't always allow for that. And in my opinion, that's a mistake.
I think you summed up that pretty well. I just wanted to note that when a politician are doing stuff to avoid looking like he's weak or she is weak, that's a very good evidence that they are very weak. But the thing is, which we don't talk so much about, is that you're right, all this pressure was on Scholz. People were not shouting about Macron, for instance, and suddenly he announced we're sending the French tanks on wheel, and it kind of started a chain reaction. So politics isn't always about doing the right thing that is most transparent to achieve the goals. It's also about being strategic, playing on your partner's strengths and weaknesses. So you're right. I think that more shouting at Scholz and creating insulting memes about Scholz is not necessarily the right move for the internet dogs and journalists. It didn't really work last year.
Yeah, and in my opinion, just to focus on Germany in that regard, I do see the government working better once it's quiet. In that regard, I was super mad at my own government, and that's one of the reasons why I got so heavily engaged myself into doing whatever I can at that time to help out, because I felt like my government is failing me or failing us Germans with regards to our more or less historic duty to support Ukraine in this war. But once it became, or once it got a bit more quiet, I felt that the government is actually able to do more stuff. And if you look at how politics in Germany are currently shaping up with very strong Russia influenced, left and right wings, you can kind of see why. Because people against stuff will always scream louder. So if you create too much media hype about, as an example, now Taurus, you will make those people basically congratulating Scholz on not sending it or blocking something. You will make them scream louder than the people asking for it, at least in German politics. And that's why I always worry if you go into that direction, because in my opinion, Scholz is heavily guided by the diplomacy with the US as an example. We've seen that in the past, and I think there are diplomatic channels to put pressure on the government, which work a lot better. But once you start screaming in public, I feel like it's only getting worse. And but I mean that's my personal opinion, and anyone can think differently.
So, while you guys were talking, I've been looking for all this shelling in Donetsk that we keep hearing about, right? The chat was, Jimmy Jams was really in on it. He was like saying like, oh man, Donetsk is getting absolutely shellacked with shelling. I mean, I'm looking for it. It looks all green, like there's no like craters. Well, I don't know. What am I missing here? Looks fine to me.
Maybe
Is he saying
Is
he saying that Ukraine is shelling Donetsk that much, or what?
Yeah, I mean, look at this.
Yeah, but
look at these
you're
trees. This is like downtown Donetsk. This is great. It's everything is beautiful. I mean, what am I missing?
I think you need to look at the where the children are.
I mean, I do know that Ukraine has occasionally shelled this industrial area. I do know there's videos of that. It's kind of a fair game. They've shelled some of the train areas. They occasionally shell along this highway. But I'm looking in downtown. These are like residential areas. I mean, granted, this is low res. That's fair enough, but I mean, these roofs, they look pretty. I don't see holes. You'd expect that maybe some of these roofs would be caved in a little bit. Maybe some craters. I don't see any. It's weird. Just saying. So, anyways. What else? Is there anything I didn't mention? Any news lately? I can't remember. I think I talked about it all.
Maybe there's videos you want to show, like the BMP today, which was interesting. The BMP 2M.
Oh yeah,
because I felt like that was a very, or at least it is a reminder to close your hatches.
An incredibly rare vehicle. I'm not sure how many there are, but I can only remember seeing a handful. Does this show anything bad?
No, I don't remember it. Maybe maybe I missed a course. When I watch videos, I look at trees and stuff. Sometimes, sometimes I will sell you a Nona for a BMP.
Yeah. Very rare vehicle. Uncommon. I don't know how many there are. I imagine not more than 300 probably. I don't actually know, but I can't imagine there's more than like 300 of them. I do know Konstantin's friends took out one last year in Petropavlivka, which is up here near Kharkiv, or near Kupiansk. In Petropavlivka, they took out one, and that BMP-2M put up quite a fight. It survived actually a lot of hits. It really, BMPs are often looked at as having no armor. And I feel like the BMP that Konstantin's friends took out showed that they are actually an armored vehicle. The BMP was like driving down a road. It first got hit by a mortar, I believe. And the mortar, I believe, it penetrated the top of the BMP and took out the driver. And the BMP then was stuck. And it was basically toast at that point. I think they shot it with an RPG, which I think bounced off. I think they shot it with another RPG, but missed. And I think a third RPG missed. Then they were like, what do we do now? The commander of the BMP got out and ran away, and the gunner stayed in the BMP, and I can't remember how they destroyed it, but they eventually I think they shot it with artillery until it was destroyed. But the gunner stayed in the BMP until the very end. The commander just got out and ran away, and the driver was taken out first. So, but that BMP, it took a lot of hits to take him out. He survived a whole bunch.
Well, with this one, they were friendly enough to leave the doors open.
Yeah.
One more video which might be interesting is actually, maybe some people read it that yesterday, I think, the Russian MIC announced that the first two S-40, what's its name? Flocks or something, were delivered. So a 120 millimeter mortar system, I think, self-propelled.
Yep.
Delivered or announced announced as delivered yesterday, and today was the first video of an FPV drone hitting it in the Kherson region.
Yeah, this is it. It kind of, there's a point where I can't tell the difference between a small howitzer and a big mortar, and this is definitely there. I don't know the difference between this and 105 millimeter. But yeah, there's it showed up in Ukraine and then immediately disappeared.
Unfortunately, we don't see the aftermath.
Yeah, we don't.
Oh, look, he even flashed his lights. How kind of him.
Yeah, there's air raid alarms in Sevastopol and whatever, but there are so many air raid alarms, and I'm not sure most of them are legitimate.
Yeah, I think that was quite interesting. We also had this talk on, or this discussion in Discord. I think it was sometime last week or something when I think John shared the message that there were drones attacking Crimea, and basically the messaging from the Russian side, it was easily noticeable that it was different. They acted like they were tracking those drones for a very long time, while every time before they were completely surprised once a drone showed up over Crimea, more or less. So the messaging was different, and it was more or less easy to predict that this is going to be a complete nothing burger, and that Russia's just going to claim that they shot down X drones over Crimea. And this is pretty much exactly what happened. And today there was the Sevastopol mayor saying that the smoke in Sevastopol Bay is part of the Russian military to disguise basically assets, and that they're currently defending, I think, against naval drones or something like that. And some Ukrainian Crimea channels noted that all of their subscribers are saying that there was no smoke in Sevastopol Bay during the day. So, they often make those statements and invent some of those kind of successes, probably to make the population, which they, invited to Crimea, let's call it that, to make them feel more safe and better defended. Or I don't know what else might be the reason for that, but yeah, they're inventing it a lot of times.
It kind of feels like there's two purposes. It's like one purpose is to intentionally scare people, and then the other purpose is to say, but don't worry, we saved you. So it's like, it feels like very Mafia. So, it would be a shame if someone broke into your house tonight, huh?
It's exactly what they do in Sicily. They, ask for pizzo money for the regional insurance, let's say. This guy comes and collects the pizzo, and you pay up. And when you don't have anything to pay up with, or if you just don't want to pay them anymore, next time you come and open your shop, the windows are either broken or something else happened.
Brick came out of nowhere.
Yep. Pity you didn't pay the insurance. But yeah, I think that psychology might work for a while, but I don't think civilians care about the percentage of drones being shot down. I think they care about if they arrive or not.
Yeah. Well, I don't
But
know.
it doesn't look like they care at all.
Well, I'm sure they care. It's just there's like ways of showing how much you care. And the Russian way of showing how much you care is by not doing anything. Whereas like a normal person might show it a different way.
Yeah. I think the people who, the terrified people left.
Yeah, well, that bridge sure was full of people leaving at one point. I don't know if they ever came back. Maybe they did. Maybe they just left for a weekend. I have no idea.
The bridge is apparently repaired again.
Yep.
Is it entirely repaired? I heard they're hurrying up with the last segment.
Yeah, they changed out both the damaged segments, so should be reopened again soon for full traffic, both lanes.
How long do you give it this time?
When is Taurus going to show
up? The thing is, I think Ukraine can damage the bridge like they've done before, but I think the next time, I think they want to let one of the suspension, the parts that, if you go a little bit, up to the left.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It is 2 days until the anniversary of the first strike. And I was just thinking that in my head because if I remember right, last year they blew up the S-300s that were hitting Zaporizhia, and I think the next day they blew up the bridge, if I remember the timing right. Because Russia was like, don't worry, we'll bring in more. And they blew up the bridge. And they're like, never mind.
But yeah, I think next time they want to go for the suspension bridge, and I think they want to go for the rail part and not the road.
They're saying, next time there won't be a next time.
Anyways, do you think you can show the video that I linked in the chat? The one with the thermal imaging of the people just crawling out like ants from a hole in the ground.
Oh, that one.
Oh yeah, but not the second part of it.
Yeah, maybe just show the people moving and then stop it before.
Where did you put it?
It's
Linked there.
Oh, I'm confused.
I responded to. Oh, oops! No, I didn't. I'm so stupid.
No, you just said this. You said this to nothing.
Now it worked.
Okay. Oh, that one. Oh, okay, yeah.
I can tell you the time you have to stop it.
Well, we're watching on YouTube, which means we have a delay.
Yeah. That's true. You have like a 30-second delay. If you tell me to stop, it'll be overridden. Okay. Oh, okay. I had panicked because there's a countdown timer.
Yeah, you have to stop it at 1 minute 40 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's the first strike, and then something starts burning, I think, inside the bunker. Because people don't stop going out. It's safe until 1 minute 40.
Okay.
But it's just astonishing how many people just continue to get out of this hole in the ground, which is probably a bunker. It's so difficult to understand terrain when you look at thermal imaging.
Yes. And there's more up here too. I don't know what that's about. Are these like completely unrelated people or what?
Probably just.
Okay.
I think it's the same people.
Because they're like over there though. They're like pretty far away. I mean, it's not that far, but yeah, that's.
Yeah.
And then everything was fine, and
and they lived happily, and so on.
But it's a pretty good fire mission. That's what I wanted to say. Like, this is like, they knew where the bunker were. They probably knew that it was full of people, and they scared them out. And they knew probably where they were gonna go because they probably been observing exactly where they normally ran every day, and they had this other targets that they already had calculated. So a bunch of people died.
You don't say that.
Yeah, it's a good video.
I know. I shared it with iLold. Because there's actually, it's like a clown car. It looks like a clown car. And it didn't work out for them getting out of there. So I don't know what would have been worse.
But the thing is, if we saw the video without the thermal imaging, I think we wouldn't feel so weird about it. But because it looks all flat because of the thermal imaging, it's just so unpredictable that so many people will come out of that hole in the ground.
Yeah.
And Andrew, I also I shared the other video in Discord, which I think might be interesting to show, because I raised questions, but they were never responded to. It's about the Ukrainian infantry assault, where they use a lot of smoke and different colored smoke. And
that's so loud. I need to mute it. Oh God. Okay, sorry.
I think there's nothing on there. Well, at least in the beginning parts. I mean, you can stop once the smoke is visible twice, the yellow and the red smoke, because I'm interested in, maybe someone has experience with that or knows exactly how it's applied. If it's applied with the logic, with the yellow and red smoke, is it a proximity to enemy thing?
Look at the mines. They're just like laying down next to mines.
Yeah. But you see this? And this is the trench where the Russians basically are right next to.
Yeah.
They forced them to retreat. And you see on the approach, first they apply yellow smoke and then they apply red smoke. I assume both of that smoke is dropped by grenade to mark areas where, probably the proximity or something. But it's the first time I see it applied in that way. I've seen similar warnings in terms of proximity.
Do you remember the Miklik?
Which one?
This assault in this forest. They had a drone fly over a position, and they dropped I think yellow smoke on it, and then the Miklik shot at the yellow smoke.
Yeah, but here obviously you wouldn't wanna throw a Miklik at the yellow smoke.
No. But that was interesting because it's like, at first I've never seen like an assault Miklik. I've never seen a Miklik used as a weapon during an attack. It seems like a crazy weapon. It's like, okay, we're gonna drive in a truck full of high explosives. But anyways, but yeah, they used the Miklik to clear the trench, so that the drone flew over to the trench, and then dropped the smoke on it, and then they shot the Miklik into the trench, and that was pretty interesting.
So when it comes to colored smoke, it can mean whatever you want it to mean, and I don't think you want that the colors to be fixed, so that yellow always means we're going to put fire here, or that green always means that friendlies are here. You want to change that out periodically. So it can mean whatever. In this case, it looks like red meant this is infill, so infiltration point where the Ukrainian friendlies are going in, and probably also going to be where they're going to extract. Or they might designate another area for extraction, which is to signal for the artillery and the mortars to not bombard this particular area. It can mean everything else is free for all, or it could mean just stay clear of this area.
Dirk is suggesting it might have marked the mines. What do you think about that?
I assume
if it was dropped from a drone, that makes sense.
But it was anti-tank mines, I think, laying there.
Yeah, I assume that these are for tanks. The colors are for tanks.
Okay.
Because I bet they have a tank sitting in the back waiting to shoot at stuff. And the colors are probably, please, Mr. Tank, don't shoot us. I think that's what the colors mean. That's my assumption. Because every time I've seen Ukraine use colors, which isn't that often, but every time they have, it was for operating with their armor somehow. Because the Miklik, because they dropped the grenade and the tank immediately started shooting it, and then the Miklik shot at it, and so that color was to like tell the armor where to shoot, and I bet this is telling the armor where not to shoot.
It can also signalize different phases in an attack. So let's say the infantry has decided they need to retreat, and then they lay different color smoke. That means within a certain amount of time, the precision fire can assume at least that the Ukrainians have extracted or prepare for them being extracted, and then the actual extraction being completed can be signaled with another color again. So it can mean a wide range of things.
Okay, so but you're saying there's no fixed doctrine in applying colored smoke?
No, I don't know about other countries, but we would brief for every operation what the color means and change it out. I don't know how that works in other countries, and I don't think it's logical to use the same color for everything.
How long would one of those grenades actually throw smoke?
Depends. Some last just 30 seconds, a minute. You have smoke grenades that you can fire off from a tank or an artillery shell that lays smoke, they'd certainly last a bit longer.
So there was a really good video the other day of this video. I love this video so much. It is from the K2 battalion, and it's them using a tank. And there's one part of this video that makes me so happy, and it's the smoke. You know how upset I get when there's no smoke covering a tank? It really upsets me. This video, boy, dude, they got smoke. Look at this. This is beautiful. Oh, it's so beautiful. Look at this. They have smoke over here covering the whole line of sight. Nobody can see that tank. Because the point here is that Russia has tanks on these hills in the distance. These tanks are, they have high ground, they have clear line of sight. So what they did, they threw up smoke. It makes a little wall of smoke over here. Can't see the Ukrainian tank while the tank is doing its job. And then he turns around and drives away afterwards. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's probably a smoke generator. You also have larger canisters that can do that sort of...
I believe this is artillery shooting the
Oh,
smoke.
okay.
Because after he shoots the tank shoots a bunch of shells, and I was watching this like worried to myself, what's going to happen when the smoke goes away? But then they zoom out and there's another smoke. There's a second smoke. It made me so happy. Oh,
Yeah.
why can't they always use smoke? Oh, it's beautiful. But anyways, so that tank is doing its job. So I'm not going to show the whole video, but I just love seeing the smoke. Oh, look at that smoke. Oh, look at it go. I've seen so many videos where they don't use smoke and it ends up getting them killed. And it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating to me.
Or you know, that horrible video where they use smoke and then drive out of the smoke.
Yeah, because yep, that was also pretty bad.
Like, yeah.
Yeah,
I know for a fact that some of the instructors that have been training Ukrainians on tanks and IFVs have been screaming at the same people when they've seen the videos of them being in engagements. Like, you need to use smoke. Why are you not using smoke? Like, their whole conversations have been just about smoke. But there must be a supply problem.
how can there be a supply problem of smoke? It can't, like, it's not that
There must be.
expensive. Like, is the West so incapable that we can't supply smoke grenades? Or they're like, here's like a $5 million tank, but we're gonna skimp out on like the $50 smoke grenade.
I wouldn't be surprised, Andrew, if there's something broken in the supply lines there as well.
It's just ridiculous.
But the thing is, like, you should always use the smoke when you're in an engagement and getting fire, because they probably thinking, this is not so serious. I need to save this for a more serious situation. That's really not what you want to think. You know, that's not how you want to act.
No.
That's just gonna get you killed.
No, yeah, you need to you need to survive the engagement you're in before you worry about the next engagement.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you don't have smoke the next time, then you can use that as your assessment of the operation. We don't have smoke, so we need to behave differently. But when you have the smoke, you should use it. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
It does make me happy that Germany keeps giving smoke rounds for the artillery. It does make me happy every time I see that. They're like, oh, we gave 1,000 smoke rounds. Good job.
But
Thanks.
have we ever seen them being applied? I think we have once in...
I just showed you a video. I just showed you one.
The K2 video?
Yeah. those
Oh.
are smoke artillery.
Oh, I was not actively watching that because my girlfriend found a spider and she's phobic. So she screamed. While I was talking about Scholz earlier, she called me on my phone from next door at least 3 times, so I would come out and save her from the spider. But yeah, I think I have seen it in Novomykhailivka. There we've seen it once. There was clearly remote launch smoke screens, maybe when they were moving down the tree line. But else than that, yeah, I guess the K2 video. But isn't that old?
Yeah, it's old, but it's smoke.
Yeah, but that might not have been a German shell then.
Well, who knows? I think they've been, well, probably. Well, I don't know. Because the K2, I believe they shoot 105s. So it might be British.
I think that might be because I think I remember when Germany first announced the shipment of those rounds, and I think it's unfortunately not that long ago. I think it was still this year even, and I think the K2 video might be from last year.
Yeah, I think it's from November.
No.
Yeah, and the smoke that we're talking about are like vehicle, well, artillery and vehicle smoke, not like infantry smoke grenades. Just to be clear, trying to find a good picture of I don't know what picture to show.
So I sent you a video, Andrew, of a system that Ukraine has, which I've still not seen being used. It's on a couple of their vehicles, like the AMXs and a few other armored MRAPs. It's a French smoke dispersion or smoke screen dispersion system. They also have it on the 122 Stridsvagn. And I sent you the link to a YouTube video that shows it off. And you understand how useful it is if you look at that video.
Okay, I'm trying to skip. What's the phrase? Go straight to the monkey. That's a baseball phrase. Or at least,
yeah,
it's a baseball joke anyway.
Yeah, I wasn't able to link the exact moment.
Here it is. Boom. Yeah, that's the yep. I've seen this before. I've not seen it come in multiple colors though. Usually it's just white. Are the French always multicolored, or they just show?
The thing is that's an IR blocking smoke screen, so it's. I don't think it has anything to do with the color isn't the purpose. It's to block the IR.
Yeah, they pop them.
Yeah,
honestly, I kind of expected the colors in the French flag here.
It's like 10 seconds, and suddenly the enemy has no way of seeing you, and you're totally obscured.
Yes, yeah. That
But
sort of smoke.
I also think that the color mix, particularly adding those darker colors in it, it has a quite logical advantage in my opinion, because if the enemy shot at that vehicle, he won't know if it was hit or not.
I can guarantee you, if Ukraine were popping these, Russia would count every single one as a destroyed vehicle.
Maybe we've seen it and we've counted it as well.
If you see the moment they pop them, then no. But yeah, maybe you counted one as the destroyed vehicles because they clip it so that you don't see the actual dispersion of the smoke.
Yeah, I mean, there was a vehicle today, this is not at all related, but they counted it as a killed vehicle, even though, Gick, you know what I'm talking about. It was the T-64 BV. It crashed into a mine and it threw its track off, and it was going full speed when it hit the mine. So the track flew off, the other track kept going, and it made it spin. and when it was spinning, it hit 3 more mines, and they called it a destroyed tank. But then you see all 3 crew jump out. It wasn't destroyed at all. I'm not sure the tank was even damaged. It was just, it lost both of its tracks, and it took out 4 mines. It's a lot of mines going off, but the vehicle, I don't think, was damaged beyond the tracks.
But I would also not call it efficient demining.
No. Well, yeah, you don't. Preferably, you don't crash into the mine at all. But I don't think that vehicle's destroyed. Even though all the Russians are.
Well, we've seen with Novomykhailivka, basically a lot of people when we were geolocating all of those temporary abandoned vehicles and marked them as damaged, and I was talking to Lost War or at least one of the moderators, and they told me that they will not yet add them because they were abandoned so close to Ukrainian positions that it doesn't make sense. And back then, I was having a discussion, because in my opinion, it still makes sense to market because you will see that vehicle again because they will fire lancets and anything at that and count it 26 times as a new destroyed vehicle. And this is exactly what happened. So a lot of those times when we see Ukrainian vehicles not destroyed but abandoned, even if it's in gray zone or close to gray zone, we often will have to count them again 1 week later because any stationary vehicle is a welcome gift to Russian soldiers to shoot videos and claim their rewards.
Yeah, and something like that happened over here near Staromlynivka, where Ukraine damaged the Brem 1 that was towing a T-80 BV, and the Brem 1 kind of spiraled out of control and crashed into these trees over here. And then Ukraine went and bombed them with more drones, and then Russia recovered both of those vehicles. So we see the same sort of thing then. I mean, like, were people arguing that we shouldn't mark them as damaged and abandoned here? Because those same people, I'm pretty sure, marked them as damaged and abandoned, even though they were recovered, like, almost immediately. Jimmy asked to talk about that strike on the Russian training. I already did talk about it. I don't know, Gick, do you want to talk about it? I already mentioned it.
Well,
I don't really.
I don't even think there's so much to say. I think the video doesn't show clearly, or at least clearly enough, that there were at least a comparable amount of casualties, considering the Russian strike on the Ukrainian training ground there. It existed, and it made me feel a bit better after seeing yesterday's strike. But still, it's not making up for it.
Yeah, yesterday was really bad. I was hoping the BTR-80 would get hit, but it drove away, so there's no BTR-80. Not that that's a good vehicle to begin with, but it would have at least been a vehicle.
Yeah, I really don't think it's too spectacular because we don't see much of the actual damage or casualties.
And it's like there've been a bunch on these training grounds in Kherson. There's the one video where there was like 5 Gimlers on this island peninsula thing, and so there've been a bunch of training ground Gimler strikes. This may have been one of the least impressive, maybe. I don't know. It was nowhere to the extent of what Russia's strike yesterday was, or even the strike from last week. Russia's strike last week was really bad too.
There was this I think it was also GMLRS strike on the Russian staging, or might also have been training. Anyway, it was, I think, 3 piles of Russian infantry, and large piles, like really large piles. And that video started off as, you know, I was thinking, okay, this is now going to be it. This is going to be the video I've been waiting for. And then you end up seeing, I think, one GMLRS hit, and it hit basically the uppermost grouping, and it hit in a way that a vehicle was more or less catching a lot of the fragments in the blast. So that was very disappointing as well. But you know, Ukraine still has opportunities to hit in that way. But to me, that video made clear that it doesn't have enough shells to, you know, to fulfill the mission. Because normally, if you see 3 piles of really large Russian infantry groupings, you would want to expect that there's at least 3 rounds similar impact. But it wasn't. It was one GMLRS launched, and that's the video. And you see that 80 or 95% of the Russian infantry. And I think to remember that it was at least probably around 100 people or 120 or something like that. And you know, that's then a bit disappointing because, yeah, how much is that? That's how many companies?
Well,
How many people were there?
120 would be one company.
So yeah,
Depending on the type of company. Yeah.
So yeah, then you would have been able to you know, effectively take out one company, but you weren't, because you were only able to shoot one GMLR.
Trusty Fly, I'm almost certain that video is from like 9 years ago. It's like the video came out last year, and then there was proven that it wasn't. It was from before last year. I'm pretty sure it's for like 2014. And it just keeps making the rounds because people are short-sighted and stupid. So you don't need to bring up a video from like 9 or 10 years ago. It doesn't make you look smart. It makes you look like an edgy little kid, which is probably what you are because you were here yesterday too, but it doesn't make you look very smart.
I watched the video, and I, like, even not remembering it, I felt like there's no way to say that that's authentic. Like, knowing it's old, I still think it's old and not authentic.
It's on the news today. Wow, there's a lot of things on the news today. The video came out. It came out last year, and it was conclusively proven to be old, even last year. So I'm pretty sure it's from like 2014 or something like that. And there's another similar video where like it was like 4 or 5 like BMPs drove up and all surrendered at once, and that was from like the same time span. It's from like 10 years ago. So don't be surprised if the video comes out tomorrow. Be like, oh, like another company surrendered. Like all these BMPs surrendered. Wow, old videos.
Did you see when they were trying to sell that the all for all exchange that Ukraine did with Wagner before Wagner retreated or got rotated out? Let's call it that. They did the all for all exchange of POVs. And then, I don't know, I think last month or something like that, the Russian channels shared a video of you know, only the Ukrainian portion with the white flag and calling it surrendering and so on. It was, you know, it was a prisoner swap.
Yeah. And yeah, there was that video from a little while ago where they said it was like Ukrainian surrendering. Remember, like and then it came out that the video was from like 4 months prior, and they were actually Russians surrendering. It's like, man, just don't just randomly trust videos. That's my advice. Is just don't just randomly trust the video. At least like ask for proof.
You know, John just joined chat, and just in time for John, there's a NASAMS question.
Oh boy, what is the NASAMS question?
How many were delivered?
So far 2, I think. So There was an initial USAI pledge from the United States for 2 batteries. Those have been delivered. There was then a subsequent USAI pledge for 6 more batteries. Those are currently in the pipeline. Canada is buying one on Ukraine's behalf. Ukraine purchased their own through FMS, Foreign Military Sale process. And then I believe we pledged an additional 4 more through USAI. So the total in the pipeline, both delivered and undelivered, is, what is it? It's 14 now, I think. Sorry, here. There's the initial 8, and then there was the 2, so that's 10. Yeah, so it should be 14 at least. Norway potentially delivered some from their own inventory. I'm not really clear. That information surrounding that's very nebulous to me. So it's at least 14 pledge total, with 2 of those delivered, and maybe an additional battery or 2 from Norway. You know, if we're lucky.
What I can say is that Norway sent additional parts of systems. So basically, as long as soon as the Kongsberg is able to produce more launchers and other components for the system, they are sending them. So they don't send entire batteries as it is. The numbers are not official, so I don't think they will be announced anytime soon. But they have sent more launchers, that's for sure. And that's also been stated by the Minister of Defense of Norway, that we have been sending components of the systems. I also think that there has been some statements about additional radars for NASAMS being sent, so Sentinels.
Yeah, we've supplied standalone Sentinels that can be integrated with NASAMS, I believe. And I think Lithuania, for example, they have a NASAMS battery or 2. They sent some launchers from there. There was an effort by the United States to more or less secure NASAMS batteries from Middle Eastern operators and then backfill them with the USAI batteries. That effort, as far as I'm aware, has not been successful. Or if there were any transfers made as a result of that, it as of yet has not been publicized.
John, now that you're here, and I was really hoping that you're going to be here today, because we had some very interesting discussion also about Taurus already on Discord before, and I think that would be one discussion which might be also super interesting for the audience, and that was both in terms of capabilities, basically comparing Taurus with Storm Shadow or Scalp BG, and also then ATACMS, of course, once they arrive. And then also with the, further prospect, we were talking about another missile. I'm not sure if it's public. Maybe you can talk about that, and also with, in terms of the timeline, to maybe give an idea what, where would the Taurus fit in terms of timeline and why. And if you want, about the integration part, because I've seen on Twitter that there's a lot of, there are a lot of people claiming that the Taurus is easily integrated, and basically it's just the same as the Storm Shadow. I don't know if you want to get into that.
Right. So Taurus. In terms of what's actually happening with Taurus, I've been, shall we say, rather dissatisfied with the German media's coverage of it. Just simple, it's not necessarily accurate as far as I'm aware. Taurus will take time to implement. My understanding is the integration timeline we're looking at is 3 to 6 months, which is not as fast as was initially hoped. It's going to be faster than Storm Shadow and Scalp BG, which took about 7 months to integrate, because there is some commonality in terms of Taurus and Storm Shadow. That said, Taurus is sufficiently different that it's not going to be dramatically rapid. It's probably going to take them absolute minimum 3 months, probably 4 or 5, being more realistic, to work through all the issues on that. In terms of what has been publicly reported, there has been, I guess, claims that have been circulated, I guess, by the the Bundeskanzler's office concerning the need to deploy Bundeswehr personnel to Germany to help integrate, service, maintain, repair the missiles as needed. That's nonsensical as far as I'm aware. MBDA Germany contractors could do that if there is a need, and there probably will be a need for that. So, that's just kind of a political stunt, more or less. This could all be done through private contractors. Again, MBDA Germany, Saab, since they co-developed it. Hell, the Spanish, since they operate it, it's not out of question that they can provide technical support. There's a variety of plausible solutions here as to how we can proceed. In terms of the geodata stuff, that's a non-issue as far as I'm aware. The UK and France gave them the full geodata package along with the software to do the mission planning. So that should be usable for Taurus without too much difficulty, as I understand it. So, the Germans don't need to really give anything as far as I'm aware in that regard. The Ukrainians can already do that themselves with the data and tools that they currently have access to. So again, that's kind of a moot point in that regard. And then in terms of what Taurus brings to the table, I mean, the main thing that distinguishes it from Storm Shadow and Scout BG is just range. Has about 200 kilometer greater range than Storm Shadow. So we're talking about 730 to 760 kilometers versus 560 on Storm Shadow. And the second aspect is it's fusing. The Mephisto warhead on Taurus has what's known as called the PIMF fusing, PIMPF. I can't remember what exactly it's an acronym for, but it's a void sensing and layer counting fuse. So you can more or less program it to detonate at a precise moment after it passes through a certain number of layers and subsequent voids of material, as it's penetrating a hardened structure or object. Whereas with the Broach warhead on Storm Shadow, Scout PG, it's follow-through bomb mode, as it's called, with a delayed fuse, is basically just timer-based. So you don't have that precise control over the moment of detonation like you do with Taurus and its fusing. So that makes Taurus much more optimal for destroying structures like bridges, for example, or bunker complex with large numbers of rooms and compartments.
So would you expect the Taurus to complement Storm Shadow?
It will substitute Storm Shadow in the sense that the UK and France, well, France has publicly stated this, the UK hasn't, although I'd have to assume some public announcement of this decision will be made soon, just logically speaking. So France is terminating Storm Shadow deliveries, or I should say Scout BG deliveries, because they've hit the number, their minimum inventory figure for their own contingency operations. So they will cease providing Scout BG. The UK will presumably hit the same point with Storm Shadow sometime in the near future before the end of the year. So my understanding is that we should not realistically expect Storm Shadow Scout BG deliveries to continue into 2024. Depending on how many the Ukrainians have been given and what their expenditure over the next 2 to 3 months looks like, we could be looking at them running out entirely by January. That's coming January. So Taurus will help fill that gap until we can get some more sustainable solutions online, like Slam ER, for example, or figuring out how to strap an SM naval strike missile to a plane, or something to that effect.
So you're saying we need Skye Boats?
In a sense, I guess, if you can call a plane a boat.
Well, it needs to at least pretend to be a boat to make the missile work, right?
Sure. Yes, it does.
So, what is can you describe the Slam ER?
Right. So Slam ER. So to understand Slam ER, you have to understand Slam. So Slam is a pretty direct harpoon derivative, harpoon anti-ship missile. Basically, what they did is they took a harpoon, I think, a Block 1C, and they added a GPS guidance module to it. So the Harpoon 1C that was the last version before they added GPS guidance. So that was just inertial guidance plus the active radar seeker. So they added the GPS to the INS. They replaced the active radar seeker with the with the passive infrared seeker from Maverick. And then they added a data link module from the Walleye TV guided bomb. And essentially what they did is they converted Harpoon into a standoff land attack munition. That's what SLAM stands for, standoff land attack munition. And yeah, that's essentially what it was. It was a early to mid 90s land attack conversion of Harpoon. SLAM ER was a follow-on project to that. So whereas again, range and payload on SLAM are identical to Harpoon Block 1C. SLAM ER, they added basically a wing kit to it, and that substantially extended the range from like 120 kilometers to almost 300, more or less, doubled it more or less. They increased the warhead mass from, I think, like 130 kilograms on Harpoon. I could have that number. Or sorry, no, they increased it from, I think, 226 kilograms on Harpoon to 360 kilograms using a Tomahawk land attack missile derived warhead. And then they improved the seeker and they added automatic target recognition. I think both terrain feature matching and actual literal automatic target recognition of targets themselves with this infrared seeker. So that pretty substantially enhanced its capabilities and range. The main reason why it is of interest from Ukraine's perspective is that unlike really all of the other standoff munitions that have either been provided or could theoretically be provided, SLAM ER, the U.S. has a large inventory of it that's unused, totally unused. SLAM ER has been dropped from U.S. operational requirements, as I understand it, based upon some conversations with some FA-18 pilots. The U.S. Navy no longer trains them to use, employ it, or do anything with it. The specific reasons why it was dropped from U.S. inventory are classified, but I mean, we have 650-ish of them, plus potentially an unknown number, low hundreds of the original SLAMs sitting around. Those should all be available for drawdown. And more importantly, there is an active production line for it from Boeing. And what's significant about it is that it's producing a fairly sizable volume. There's room to scale the line. And most importantly, there's only one customer for it, and it's a foreign military sale customer, Saudi Arabia. The United States government is not purchasing any of them. It's just the Saudis. They have an order. They've put in, I think, 2 or 3 orders, the last of which runs through 2028. That's when the final deliveries are currently scheduled to occur per the original contract timeline. So once we get to 2028, Ukraine can literally buy 100% of the line's capacity. Or, well, either Ukraine can buy it themselves, or we could buy it on their behalf via USAI. They could have 100% of the line's capacity. Boeing could expand it as needed. And right now, I think there should be spare capacity for them as well. So it's a weapon system that we could, as long as the money's there, we can supply these to Ukraine, indefinitely. There is no inventory limit here. The only limit would be, Ukrainian expenditure relative to how fast Boeing can produce them and, what the available money is for it. That's it. I mean, it's really the perfect long-term option here in that sense. There's other options like JASSM. JASSM is a massive production volume. The issue is that it's, there's a large amount of customers for it. The U.S. is buying them like nobody's business. We have 9,500 on order. It's our most important weapon system for the Pacific by far. So there's a lot of demand there, even though production capacity is genuinely massive. And then there's also technological sensitivity concerns with its radar absorbent material coating, stuff like that. So it could be sent. It's compatible with the F-16 MLUs they'll receive, but there's a lot of hurdles to be overcome there. SLAM ER, obviously, it's not low observable, has a shorter range, has some other it has downsides, but it's cheaper and it's available in quantity without, any of these, extra asterisks. And then potentially the other option is naval strike missile. So Norway is standing up a fairly large production capacity for them, which is why it's relevant. So they currently have a single line in Norway, part of a line in the United States. I think the US line can't produce them independently. They can produce about 50% of a missile, and then, combined with the current line in Norway, they can produce a complete missile. Norway is standing up, Kongsberg, I should say, is standing up a second factory in Norway that'll have, that factory alone will have annual capacity for 400 missiles. The line in the US that's run by Raytheon, I think in Tucson, that's going to be expanded to be able to produce missiles from scratch. And they're also setting up a fourth line in Australia sometime in the next, 2 to 3 years. So, it hasn't been something that's talked about, but we're looking at a very large amount of production volume potentially coming online. I mean, it's a reasonably capable missile. It's low observable, has a 300-kilometer range comparable to SLAM-ER, GPS INS guidance, infrared seeker, it has, lots of nice capabilities. It can be potentially delivered in volume. It's, somewhat pricier than SLAM-ER, but again, it is low observable. It's more modern, has some of these other features. Really, the major hurdle for it is that it's never, naval strike missile in its original form has never been integrated with an air launch platform. The US wanted one, but we wanted one that was compatible with the F-35A and the F-35C's internal weapons bay. The NSM as is will not fit. So they basically had to redesign the missile's geometry, and that became known as Joint Strike Missile. That's currently being produced by Raytheon, again, at their Tucson facility. We're not giving those to Ukraine. Production volume on those is low. I think the max rate is 120 units per year. They're stupid expensive, like $3 million per unit. Again, partially because, again, it's sort of a niche capability for the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy, so we aren't really buying many, so unit costs tend to be fairly high because of that. That's not really realistically an option. But there was a project to integrate NSM with helicopters. It's been advertised by Kongsberg. I have some of the marketing material on my computer. I've read through it. It was proposed like 5 or 6 years ago. I don't really have any information as to whether or not that actually resulted in anything. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they were offering it and no customers were interested, so they just stopped pursuing it. That would likely be something that the Ukrainians might be interested in. So depending on what the timeline and the cost estimates would be to get that done, that might be a potential option to look at. Obviously, the alternative to that is there is a surface launching system, CDS, Coastal Defense System, NSM CDS, to launch it from the ground as a shore-based surface-to-ship missile system. Poland operates a couple batteries of them. There was discussion that the Poles might provide 1 or 2 batteries to Ukraine and then, order replacement ones from Kongsberg. There were, I guess, it was never really decided who was going to pay for it, and I haven't heard any updates on what really happened to that proposal. I haven't heard any confirmation that it either happened or was, abandoned. It's kind of just a black hole. So, failing, some air launch solution being available, that's another option. Obviously, we'll have to get somebody to part with their existing NSM CDS system. So we probably somebody would have to give Poland enough money for them to give it to Ukraine, more than likely, which probably means the EU will have to pay for it, I'm guessing.
You did not tell me how happy looking the SLAM-ER is.
It is very goofy looking, yes.
It's the happiest little missile. He's just happy to be here.
Oh, I should also mention SLAM-ER is it's kind of compatible with the F-16s. It's not integrated with the MLUs that the Ukrainians will be getting, but it has been integrated with F-16s before for the Turkish Air Force. So I'm not sure what block they're operating, but we'd have to roll out some software upgrades and some other stuff to the MLUs, but an F-16 integration should be fairly quick.
So John, place your bet. What is going to destroy the Kerch Bridge?
Ooh, that is a good question. So here's the issue. The Germans are going to place enormous restrictions on Taurus whenever it's delivered. That's just, that's just how the Germans are. That's how Scholz is. We can't have nice things. What I would say,
One second. Are you sure about that?
yes.
Do you think that there was repercussion for Ukraine when they used the Patriots to shoot down planes and helicopters in Bryansk?
I don't think it's a repercussion for anything. I think it's Scholz just being Scholz. I mean, to be honest, I mean, my understanding. So the UK in particular is, I mean, there are targets that Ukraine has been asked not to prosecute. I don't know which specific ones. My understanding is that at least for the UK, at least for the Storm Shadows specifically, I'm not referring to the Scalp-EGs here. The Ukrainians do at least notify the British beforehand, even if they're not necessarily involved in the planning of a specific mission. So the UK does seem to have, I'm guessing the UK is probably doing this at the request of the US, has some ability to, have Ukraine not prosecute certain targets. I would conjecture, and I would argue not unreasonably so, that in principle, it is certainly possible to destroy the Kerch Bridge with Storm Shadow, yet it is still standing. One could reasonably argue, again, it would just require a whole bunch more Storm Shadows than it would, say, Taurus. It might take 20 Storm Shadows and, 6 Tauruses. I'm just making up numbers here. But, you can do it with Storm Shadow. It's not physically impossible. So that suggests to me that there's pretty evidently some political pressure as to what targets can and cannot be prosecuted, and there's media reporting that kind of supports this general notion. If the UK is putting pressure on Ukraine to not prosecute certain targets, the UK and the US, I would certainly expect the Germans to, and to do so, much more invasively.
Boo.
Why do you think that exists for the Kerch Bridge? Wouldn't that be a completely logical target?
I would say it's because, I mean, again, it's difficult for me to judge, how the UK really, how the British government particularly feels about it, or if they're just doing this at the US requests, or if, how the French government feels about it. I mean, in the case of the US, I mean, I think it's pretty evident that there is an element, a strong element of risk adversity in terms of how we are approaching our security assistance to Ukraine, across as many forms. There is just a level of just inexplicable risk adversity, particularly amongst the National Security Council. A lot of people like to bash Jake Sullivan. I was once one of them. My understanding is the situation in reality is a decent bit more nuanced than is commonly portrayed by some on the Twitterverse, if you will. But there is certainly, I guess, a distinct presence of risk adversity amongst the DoD, the National Security Council, national security staff, etc. I don't think it's particularly logical. I don't think it's to Ukraine's benefit. I don't think it's to the benefit of American national security or European security. But it is what it is for the moment, and I'm not particularly optimistic that will change unless the Russians do something, exceptionally stupid.
Okay, so from what you said, I get that your take is that a virtualizer truck is probably the one which is going to destroy the Kerch Bridge, but not any of the missiles.
At least for now, yes. I mean, if Ukraine gets their own domestic standoff capabilities online and they have enough of them and they can achieve the desired effect, I suspect we'll see the bridge drop very, very quickly once they can do that organically. Same goes for a lot of targets in Russia. Once they have the capability, they will prosecute them immediately without hesitation, regardless of what the US or UK, France, Germany thinks about it. So, we'll get to that point eventually, but for the moment, yeah.
It's a bit sobering to hear. But I guess, it needs to be said sometimes.
Well, also, they're building the trains, right? The new railway and the new highways. I fully suspect by the time these Western countries allow Ukraine to blow up the Kerch Bridge, the Kerch Bridge will not really matter anymore. I think we're probably getting close to the point where it doesn't matter very much anymore. Like, obviously, it's nice to have that extra route. It's probably shorter, too. But with these rails and highways opening, which I think is imminent, I'm not sure it even will make a real difference.
Well, I have some info that we will soon publish as well at Tochny, that about the train line. It's pretty far away. We're talking many months, but they are moving incredibly fast. But
Yeah.
it's still many months.
I think that train's going to show up before Kerch Bridge goes down.
The folks that I spoke to, they didn't seem too particularly concerned about the rail and the road constructions. Their opinions were very much that it might not, it probably won't increase Russian sustainment throughput in terms of the amount of fuel, ammunition, other consumables that they can get to their personnel, per day, or whatever metric you want to use. But it will make it somewhat more difficult for Ukraine to interdict their sustainment capacity, if it, even though it may not necessarily increase their capacity overall, if that makes sense. That was the opinion of the folks I spoke to.
I'm not sure there's anything Russia can do to increase their capacity. Like, they seem tapped out in that respect. Because they're getting everything they need, more or less, or everything they're capable of supplying to themselves. They're getting ammo to the front. They're getting troops and tanks and all that. Like, I don't think there's any real bottlenecks there. But I don't think they even have the ammo to push more. Like they're buying like ammo as they use it, from what I can tell, or at least they're buying in big bulk and sending it as fast as they can, and
or remanufacturing it, from what they have in storage.
And their vehicles, they can't get them faster. It's not like possible, and all the other supplies like fuel and whatnot, I think those are all constrained by completely different things, like how many trucks they have and how many trains are available and stuff. I don't think they could move more if they wanted to, but having more routes just makes it harder and harder to stop them. At least stop the transfer of the equipment and stuff.
I noticed today that it seems that Russia has an endless supply of loaves.
They do have a lot of loaves.
And as long as they have loaves, their logistics are still in order. Sorry, John?
I was going to say, I seem to recall some people predicting the death of the Russian civilian truck fleet, and I have to say that doesn't really look like that's materialized.
Well, wait until they run out of loaves.
Yeah. Today there was an Escadrone video. I think it's a 3 minutes and 40 seconds compilation of loaves. It's just FPV drones against loaves. It's wonderful. Don't watch it if you're hungry.
Yeah. So what will the map look like at the end of the year? I doubt it's going to change much, honestly.
I'm still optimistic.
I think Russia is going to go on an offensive. I think it's going to go very badly, but I think they're going to. I don't know where.
I'm kind of hoping for a very cold winter, contrary to last year's very mild winter.
You just want the ground to freeze.
Erlend just wants to. You just want to be able to lecture people about winter warfare and the use of skis.
Skis is good, and snowmobiles too. especially electric snowmobiles. But no, actually, I think the Russians are going to struggle in the cold.
Yeah, but we've said that before.
Yeah, but
Well,
it wasn't cold last year. It was like 2 weeks.
Well, I guess the question then is not just will it be colder or will it be the same, will it be warmer than last year, is what is Russia's, I guess, the local and institutional capacity to provision their personnel with all the stuff they need to operate reasonably efficiently in cold and winter weather. Has their capacity and ability to do that increased from last year, or is it the same? I guess that's my question.
Well, so the actual supply of winter uniforms isn't so important. What is important is, did you teach the soldiers how to keep warm? Because that's not just about putting as much clothes on as possible. If they do that, I will be happy, because that's going to be bad for them. And looking at the attrition and how many people they rotate in and just recruit and recruit and recruit, I don't think they teach people. I don't think they prioritize teaching winter warfare to soldiers.
I do think that Russian civilians do kind of experience winter warfare at home in their civilian lives.
Yeah, a lot of people were mentioning that Ukraine is cold, Russia is cold, so you don't need to teach people winter warfare. But it's so I've been teaching recruits that come from deep north in Norway, and they kind of know a little bit better how to how to dress up in the cold. But that changes entirely when you run around in a trench or winter warfare and just standing waiting for a bus in the cold. That's completely different. So
I remember last year, winter related injuries like frostbite and whatnot. It was a huge fraction of the total casualties. I'm trying to remember the number. I think it was like 25% or something like that.
Yeah, and there were several reports of the hospitals in both occupied Ukraine and in Rostov-on-Don, that they had just an enormous amount of thousands of people with frostbite and other cold-related injuries.
Pneumonia.
Another thing is diseases, like people drop out on their personal hygiene in the cold. So
trench foot.
Yeah, there's a bunch of factors. Like people just don't wash, people don't change clothes, and also their immune defenses go down because they are not sufficiently eating it well enough and dress in the proper way. So there's just an enormous amount of factors that play into the Russians probably having a lot harder time than the Ukrainians in the winter, mainly because they don't prioritize teaching their soldiers about basic soldiering skills. And also, they're fighting on an occupied land where they don't get help from the civilians as much, while Ukrainians that are close to the front lines, they often get a lot of help from the civilians. So that being shelter, being able to wash themselves sometimes, and having a hot meal.
I cannot imagine fighting in Robotyne over winter. There's nothing there. There's no trees. There's no buildings. Like the roads don't even exist.
Yeah, you need to rotate soldiers a lot more often.
Anyways, we've been going for over 2 hours. I think that's enough, right?
No, Andrew, there's one more thing you need to show
Okay.
because I know your emotions. The Russian drone in Kherson filming the Ukrainian airframe.
Oh, that. Yeah. Let's see.
Because that's annoying.
It's ridiculous that this happened. Yeah. So this is a drone filming a Ukrainian jet.
And I mean, we know that typically those jets don't operate too close to the front line.
No. Well, we know who filmed this. So it's not that hard to guess where this was. Because he only films in one location. This group is based out of Novomykhailivka. And so that was filmed somewhere here, basically. They basically operate from Berislav to Vuhledar. So that was somewhere here. Not sure where, but this is basically where it could have been. And it was reasonably close. I don't think I've seen their drones fly further than like here. Cause this is pretty far. How far is that? Like 5 kilometers. 5 kilometers is pretty far for a drone. Because they only have a flight time of like 40 minutes. So it takes a few minutes to fly there, it takes a few minutes to fly back, and you don't want to lose your drone to electronic warfare, so you don't want to go that far, you don't want to take too many risks. So yeah.
But the thing is, you would not want to expect Russian drones to operate in that area, would you?
Well,
I mean, we've seen it in Kryvyi Rih at the airport. We've seen it in where was it Mykolaiv Airport?
Yeah, and I want to stress that this drone is almost certainly a Mavic. This is almost certainly a Mavic 3.
Yeah,
because these guys, they don't operate like a strategic level like assets. They don't have the big boy drones. They don't have those big things. They don't even have Orlins or anything. I've never seen them fly anything other than a Mavic, like exclusively Mavic. I don't think they have access to anything else. So this is a Mavic drone. I can almost assuredly tell you, like almost 100% confidence that this is a Mavic drone filming this. And it's also weird to have a Mavic drone flying an airplane from filming an airplane from above, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Ukrainian videos doing similar, also with helicopters and so on. Yeah. And of course, the question is always, how much is it zoomed in? Since it's only showing a portion of the full screen here, I would suggest.
Yeah. And it is stabilized too, so the video is being stabilized. So the camera's probably going like this. That's why it's probably only showing a little piece of it. Is like the best stabilization they could pull off.
No, but nevertheless, I've been wondering lately with a lot of videos that I see if the electronic warfare capabilities of Ukraine are currently sufficient, or if they have to prioritize certain areas or what's going on. And
I kind of want to show you. Yeah, this is the same drone filming an airstrike. So you see, this is how like kind of limited in how far they can fly the drone, because they're based out of Novomykhailivka, and that was filmed like the drone is like hovering like right here, I think, and that bomb was over here, like over here somewhere. So that's how. So I just want to use that as a perspective on the other the other video because it actually shows how close it was to the airplane. Because I don't think, like, this drone was not filming an airplane off in the distance. Because this is like the sort of footage you'd get if you were filming off in the distance. It can't see that far because its camera, its thermal camera isn't good enough to see in high detail at that distance. So I imagine that this I also wonder if it was actually a Russian plane. Obviously I don't know, but either the drone was flying over here because there was a video today, right, of I turned everything off. I'll turn stuff back on. Because it was hovering right here, filming the same drone. Well, it's the same people. It's probably the same drone, honestly. So it was hovering right here. So it could be that the drone was hovering there and saw a plane like over here, maybe. I don't know. But this was not like one of the bigger, fancier drones. Like we've seen drones hovering over downtown Kharkiv. We had drones hovering over Kherson. Drones, like there was like a drone like hovering right here, watching an airstrike over here. But these guys don't have access to that. This is a Mavic. Pretty sure. It's probably Mavic 3. Okay, so I'm gonna show one more thing, and I'm gonna stop the stream here. This is Erlend's dream. This is what he thinks about when he sleeps at night. It's a tractor with a 50 cal on top, pulling people on skis. Is that what's happening here?
Yeah, that's what's happening. It's true transport. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, didn't Germany deliver a bunch of them?
Yep. Germany delivered the armored version. Yeah. It's a BV. It's not a tractor. It's a
tractor.
It's a bandwagon. It's
an articulated. It's a tracked articulated vehicle.
Yeah.
But what I heard is that this vehicle is particularly useful for muddy areas.
Yeah, it's the best off-road vehicle for muddy vehicles that exist in the world. There is no comparison.
So that will be very relevant, and I don't think we've seen them in action so far. So that might be very relevant for autumn.
Yeah, and the winter. There are a couple of videos of them going around, but yeah, they're really useful. You can also drag other lighter vehicles out of the mud with that. So
your snowmobile warfare.
Yeah, that's actually a really bad fail. So the picture is really bad. Look at the guy on the right. He's just about to face plant really bad. Yeah, this is cool. This is actually more useful, snowmobiles, than skis. Snowmobiles could be very useful where it's necessary. So, of course, depends on the weather. So I don't think Ukraine will invest a lot, but I know they got some snowmobiles.
Yep. All right. So I think that's the stream. We've been it's been 2.5 hours. I think that's good. All right. So thank you everybody for coming and listening, and thank you for you guys for joining and talking. It was fun. All right. I'm gonna press stop now.